Geopolitical tensions remain around the world. There are several wars going on, but there's also a war for critical minerals. So, what are the critical minerals most critical for the conduct of war? We're discussing this with our next guest, Kal Malhi, who believes that there is a generational wealth opportunity lying in some of these critical minerals we'll be talking about today. So, what are these minerals and what's next? Kal, of course, is the CEO of Hertz Energy, and there will be some project developments from Hertz that we'll be going over as well in relation to these critical minerals. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome back, Kal.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me again.
Let's start by talking about some recent news out of China. This has been flying under the radar of some mainstream news outlets, but CNN has covered it. So let me just read to you this CNN article dated August. China to limit antimony exports and latest critical mineral curbs. So China will impose export limits on antimony and related elements in the name of national security, its Commerce Ministry said on Thursday. China accounted for 48% of global mined output of antimony, a strategic metal used in military applications such as ammunition, infrared missiles, nuclear weapons, and night vision goggles. So the limit will start as of September 15th, which is this week. Now, before we talk further about what's being discussed in this article, tell us why this is important.
David, as you mentioned, China is putting restrictions in on the export of antimony, and China has pretty well controlled the antimony market. And antimony is very heavily used in weapons building. And as you know, the current chaos in the world with wars in Ukraine, the Middle East, the U.S. has almost depleted its inventory of weapons that are used in those wars and other wars. And the need for antimony is at a very high and urgent need. So for China to put these restrictions in place at this stage of the world crises that are going on is causing the U.S. and other countries to kind of be in an urgent rush to find supply chains for antimony around the world. And that's where we are at antimony. And antimony is a fairly new word for the mining sector in North America. Like I said, China's controlled the antimony supply up until now.
So what do you think is going to happen next? Is going to be a squeeze of the metal? Is there going to be a surge in the price?
We've already seen that, David. Antimony up until about 3 months ago was trading at $8,000 a ton. The most recent price is $24,000 a ton. And the anticipation is it's going to keep going up until new sources of supply come on board. And there are potential sources of supply in North America, but those sources need to be developed. And there's an urgent rush to develop those sources.
Yeah, so let me just to illustrate your point. This is the United States Antimony Corp, not the price of the antimony metal itself, but this is the price of a stock that may be a good proxy for the metal itself. Okay, so going back to your point about how this is a critical mineral and crucial for national security, how do you think the U.S. is going to respond?
It's a very political move, and the U.S. is their response is to find alternative sources. They've started to mandate recycling of antimony from recycled metals, but also they're funding mineral programs with government grants and what have you to develop sources in North America. And they're very friendly with Canada, and they're willing to fund Canadian projects as well. So there's a rush to develop North American assets or mineral projects to get a supply chain for antimony in North America.
So let's go back to this article here and how illustrating how important this is. At a regular weekly briefing on Thursday, the ministry said the curbs were not directed at any specific country or region. So it's just a general export limit, not directed at the U.S. It's just for everyone. It's a sign of the times, said Christopher Ecclestone, a principal and mining strategist at Halkerton and Company in London. The military uses of antimony are now the tail that wags the dog. Everyone needs it for armaments, so it is better to hang on to it than sell it. This will put a real squeeze on the U.S. and European militaries. Okay, so nobody wants their militaries to be at a disadvantage when it comes to munitions. Why is there not a strategic stockpile of this?
I believe critical minerals as we know, David, are a new phenomena around the world. Up until now, mining was mostly focused on base metals, that being gold, copper, zinc, iron ore. Critical minerals mining is now just coming on mainstream. Critical minerals are minerals used in our current economies for green energy, computer gadgets, and what have you. And those are like lithium, niobium, antimony, and those are fairly new words for North American mining. And those are new commodities that are being developed. And we're now seeing that come on pace. Unfortunately, the US and North American economies did not have the foresight to stockpile those. And now there's that rush to develop stockpiles and also to develop sources of supply going forward.
Well, it's going to take some time to produce antimony outside of China. So, what's the worst case scenario for the military?
I believe the worst case is that there is a delay in producing it, but antimony is available in North America. There are deposits, there are sources in Canada. We've just recently acquired an antimony project in Hertz Energy. It's located in near infrastructure in the Gaspé region in Quebec. We believe we can quickly define an economic deposit and get that into something that can be put into production if we can define an economic deposit.
Okay. Well, I'm reading that also, besides China, which is a major producer of antimony, the other countries that produce antimony are Russia, Tajikistan, Bolivia, Myanmar. North America is not like a top producer. So, is there going to be a new rush to find antimony in North America? Will there be a huge deficit here in North America, do you think?
David, as the CEO of Hertz Energy, I have to speak to investors and speak about the investment opportunity we offer. And I think the antimony opportunity is kind of a generational opportunity, given the summary of what we've talked about and the need to develop North American antimony resources. And we've moved on that by acquiring this Harriman antimony project. And I believe that offers a generational opportunity for investors.
Tell us about this project. How big is it? How much can we expect in antimony?
It is a very high grade antimony surface showing that's been known for a long time. It's been documented by the Quebec geological databases. We've acquired 49 claims, which is about 2,500 hectares, and it's located near infrastructure, near a town called Richmond in the Gaspé region. It's not something we have to fly in and out of. We can get access to it. And we actually have a crew going onto the site in the next week or so to start our exploration program.
Was this a recent acquisition, Cal?
Yes, we started looking for antimony targets about a month ago, and we came across this project. We had our geologist do some due diligence on it, and we agreed this was a target of merit, and we moved quickly to acquire it from a prospector in Quebec, and we've acquired it just about 10 days ago, and we've moved to get a geological team mobile to go to the site in the next week or so.
Can we expect production anytime soon?
David, we're an exploration company, so I have to be cautious to say that we're going to be in production. We're at the exploration stage, so we have to move in stages. So our first stage is to identify drill targets. That's our first move. Once we've identified drill targets, we will move to drilling and then proving that there's an economic resource. The benefit is Hertz Energy has some capital. We have about 750,000 in what's known as flow-through capital. And Quebec is a very mining-friendly place. It has what's called flow-through capital, where investors can invest in mining projects, and they get 100% of their investment back in tax credits. So there's an abundance of flow-through capital available to fund exploration projects, and we have access to lots of that. So if we need capital to explore this project, it's readily available.
But tell us how flow-through capital funding works.
So flow-through capital in Quebec works in the way that investors can buy shares in Hertz Energy on a flow-through basis. The investment is restricted, that it has to be spent on exploration by Hertz Energy, but the investor gets 100% of their investment back in tax credits partly from the province of Quebec, and plus from the government of Canada, and they're called flow-through shares.
And you have currently $750,000 in cash. Is that
We have 750,000 that we raised as flow-through
okay
capital, which is totally dedicated to exploration.
on this project? And if you need more capital, what is your plan then?
We can go back to the market and raise flow-through capital again. And like I said, Quebec has got an abundance of flow-through capital because of their the incentives are so great.
Have you considered exploring for antimony outside of Quebec?
Uh, David, I have to be careful for regulators, but we have another project that we're doing due diligence on. I cannot say that we will acquire it or whether we will not, but we are quite deep into doing due diligence on it, and it's quite a good project. But I have to caution that nothing has been done, and when we do announce that we've done something, that's when we will definitively say that we've acquired it.
Okay. By the way, just speaking on mining sentiment overall, I think a lot of investors would like to know from CEOs like yourself what the sentiment has been for miners from investors. Has it been easier or more difficult to raise capital this year compared to prior years?
It's been a very tough year for mining, David. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Capital has been very hard to raise for mining, but we've chosen Quebec as our place to do business for mineral exploration, just for the reason that I spoke to you about, because of the flow through capital that's available. And for that reason, it's been fairly easy for us to raise capital for our projects. And we've been able to fund our projects with flow through capital. Hard dollars, as they say in mining, hard dollars are dollars that are not dedicated to mineral exploration, that do not have tax incentives, are very hard to raise around in Canada for other provinces.
In terms of the timeline, what is the next piece of news or development for Hertz that investors need to be paying attention to?
I believe we've got our crew going to the ground in the next 2 weeks or so. We will have news on our results from the surface work. Then our goal is to mobilize drill program on our property. And the other aspect, we are doing due diligence on additional antimony projects, so we're hoping to have news on those as well.
Okay, obviously this is too early to say, but down the line, what kind of clientele would you expect to be purchasing antimony? Would it be the government or private companies, industrial companies?
I believe the current need, urgent need, is for the U.S. military and the Canadian military. I mean, that's what the biggest use for antimony and the most urgent need is for weapons rebuilding inventory for especially the U.S. Weapons and the military needs.
Okay, well, I appreciate you updating us on the antimony market. So tell us where we can find out more about Hertz and keep up to date.
Again, our website has excellent information, hertzenergy.com. There's a slash between Hertz and Energy. Our information is there. We also have our news releases. If you search hertzenergy.com, news file is our news agency, and you can reach us. My information is on our news releases. I'm available at any time investors need to reach me.
Okay, we'll put the links in the description down below so people can do their own due diligence. Thank you very much, Kal, for coming on the show. Pleasure.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.